Good evening. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you tonight, so I'm using video to convey a message of thanks on part of the board and myself for help with promoting the village. Most of you, through email contacts, have sent the talking points memo around. Probably one of the village videos and the 2 audio promotions. Now, from here, we need to find a way to get the shorter audio promotion, the 60-second one, and the little short video promotion on the air in some way. They're both public service announcements, or PSAs, and most media outlets should handle them. I've tried to have their length cut down tremendously, and I deeply appreciate your help in getting that matter paid for and taken care of. Now, under promotions, I have some sample items for you tonight, which I showed to the board on Thursday, and I'd like you to take a look at. I'm not saying we need to buy into all that sort of stuff, but if we had some pens or maybe some plastic cups and maybe a few mugs for the speakers or the guests at the library, it would be a big help. And it would just be a nice way of saying thank you for what they've done, especially for somebody like Todd Giglio and Ms. Sharon Hall. What you missed at the board meeting, and I'll tell you, is that same night we were having not one, but 2 authors in Franklinton. We had 33 or 35 people for that. Then, of course, we had the business of the library to attend to in the board meeting, which I'm sure Ms. Seal will probably tell you something about. As you can look around Bogalusa, look at the floors, look up, look at the building itself, you'll see it's in a lot better shape. It's one thing I've tried to do in the last 4 years, is to make sure that these buildings are in better stead. And to give you an idea, while you're at Bogalusa, the Franklin parking lot is being torn up and completely rebuilt. Thomas has had new stairs built. Eden's going to get something somewhere. I just haven't figured out where and when. But we're going to probably have a small kind of a break room, sort of storage room for them inside the building with real walls as opposed to some sort of a little partition. But with regard to the promotional items that I have for you, you'll see a drinking flask with a straw from the Livingston Parish Library, a bunch of stuff from the Tenchville Parish Library, and the prototype mug that I promised you. I'll have a price list that I'll give to Miss Etta as well for some of these things. I just don't believe in using the traditional vendors that we've used in the past. In the past, the library has paid for these things, but then again, that's the past. And Miss Graham has informed me that using public funds to pay for promotional items or promotions is strictly, they are both of them forbidden. And I do want to avoid that. And I would like to go ahead and see what your favor is on that, and just take your time, and whatever you can do, you can do. If we had, I think one of the companies that I found had the mugs for $3.99 a piece. I paid $12 for this one. And, oh, by the way, this is the Livingston thing. You'll see this shortly. Bear in mind it does have my wife's name on it if it's not returned. I probably shouldn't return as well, but yeah, I just wanted to share those things with you. A lot of these things can be done for relatively little cost. There are companies that we use for the bags, like 4 Imprint. The mug came from Vistaprint.com. But there are other ones. There's one called Mugs for Less, and one's called Cheap Drinking Mugs. And I fixate on the mugs because I know I'm a coffee drinker. And if you come into the office and look at the desk, you'll find 4 or 5 mugs that are used as auxiliary pen containers and scissors holders and other ephemera that, looking around, probably ought to be someplace else, but therein it lies. But with that in mind, any help you can do for promotion, if you can land these the video or the audio on the local stations, I think it would be great. I'm going to try to talk with 107 in Franklinton when I can. And it's already the audio promotions are already broadcast quality. The video thing, well, that's what happens when you're alone in Bogalusa for a weekend while they're waxing. Anyway, but I think it conveys the message nonetheless. I know that you have a lot to get done this meeting, so I'm only asking you for two things. If you can do, well, maybe 3 or 4, but if you can handle promotion on for us, I promise I'll keep it from getting excessive. Second, let's see about BookFest 2, and you should have some authors. I have 2 more that we can add. Sharon Ball and Miss Guerin, who was here, or Guerin, who was here, Guerin, who was here the other night. They both had fine presentations, and I visited with them before the board meeting, but you know, it's kind of hard to have a board meeting without the director, who's also the recording secretary of the meeting. So, we did get a lot accomplished the other night. We got the parking lot paid for, and we did manage to get wording to get a vehicle to cover the needs of our outreach mission and our delivery jobs to the other branches and to the outreach partners. We are also going to attempt to do something with charitable work. I've already worked with Rotary and the Help Center, as you know, to get food to the Bogalusa Help Center, and I've tried for a long time to do something with Franklinton. And Steve Bush, or Reverend Steve Bush, was heading up the Help Center here in Franklinton. He even has a key to it. So when the time comes, we could get the stuff, the canned goods to him and get them turned in. But the problem, I know Reverend Bush is leaving, but there's more than one Reverend that has that key. So we'll be able to do something for them. This month, in fact, March and April, the 2 month period covers food for fines. I'll do it again probably October or September, October, something like that, so that we can fulfill that role. Mr. Jim Adams asked if the Lions could put some literature in. And as far as I'm concerned, if any nonprofit group wants to make use of displays or anything like that, or little display space, we'll try to accommodate as best we can. There's no necessarily a policy mechanism for it, but there is the library's role of helping in the community. And if we can't fulfill that obligation, then again, why are we here? We have a north, south, east, and west branch, and they're all at 4 convenient cardinal points for the folks to be able to get to. I realize that if you're in Angie or Mount Herman, that's hard. Now, our plans for Angie are at best stalemated simply because we can't get the legal issues out of the way to dispense of, or dispose of the matter in a favorable way. So we'll eventually come up with something that will work. I won't say it'll be a branch, but if it's a drop-off point for outreach, fine. If we go up every once in a while and hold a class there, that's fine too. Now, you may wonder why, with the millage and everything coming up, that we're spending the money to do that. And here's why. Very often, I don't take mileage when I do library business. It's just something else that I have to do. It's another piece of paper I have to fill out. And even though I'm putting my money towards doing many library things, it subsidizes the library, as Mr. Westmoreland says. And Ms. Carruthers has done the same. Although I make sure that she does file for a mileage, as I do with Ms. Ed and the other employees. I mean, I'm compensated well enough where I can absorb a little bit of that loss. But the thing is, whenever an employee gets in their own vehicle to fulfill a library role, the library is more than obligated to cover the mileage. But that doesn't cover everything that's necessary. I mean, they're still putting wear and tear on the vehicle or what have you. As I used the board, the example for the board, I said there's an old green truck that sits outside with 300,000 miles on it. It's not dead yet, but it's not far from it. And it's not what I would call representative of what we think of as library. And it would be better served for us to have something intended for that purpose. Now, we are working with some of the assisted living centers, whatnot, to try to perform some basic outreach services to them. Basically to have kind of a hold shelf, and a rotating collection, and delivery of holds, and maybe even a class or two now and then for some of the residents. And that's going to entail a lot of work. And the work that it entails, you can't fit all the books that need to be delivered, all the computers for one of those classes in my truck or in Peggy's, or in Etta's for that matter. I mean, you can, but you're not going to do it alone. You're going to need somebody to help you teach and set up. So given that, you're going to be crowded out. So that's why we took that action. The Franklinton parking lot is something that had to happen simply because I was nearly backed over once, and granted, as heavy as I am, I'm like one of those posts filled with concrete. If you hit me, I'm going to do more damage to the car than it'll do to me. But we had, I was Miss Cecile or Cecily, not the writer, the former employee that was here, was almost backed over one time. Believe me, she let me know that she wasn't happy about it. So I am trying to get that fixed. So most important thing is, I think that we need to come away from tonight is, let's work on promotions, let's think millage, let's start talking Bookfest, and I do have a request from the programs committee. If you could make a commitment for your annual donation for the summer reading program, I think it's $1,500 or what have you, if you could do that. And then if we could have a little additional, say, I think it's what, 170 or 200 or something, separate from that to pay for the advertising, I'd appreciate it. It's just that I prefer to separate the advertising out just because it gives us something else to show that when you, at the end of the year, you can say, we helped the library to the tune of promotions to the amount of, I don't know, $600 or something like that, or $700 or $1,000, whichever the amount actually is. I'm not asking for that, but just understand that. And I thank you for everything that you do, and I will be with you live shortly. It's just that LLA is one of these things that's crammed, everything is crammed into 2.5 or 3 days, and it's a very busy schedule and a grueling one. While I'm waiting to talk with you, I'm also waiting to go to this awards dinner for this Anthony Benoit Award thing. My preference would be to be there with you conducting library business as opposed to handling something that's personal. But this award is not strictly about me or anything like that, or my indignation towards having to leave the system to come get it. It's about what those in the Louisiana Library Association, those in our user community, those in our community, patrons of the library, have invested in everything that goes on, in their ideals, and it speaks to the best of everything that we can try and do. It could be any director there receiving the award, or any librarian, but I'm honored and privileged to be able to work with you to do these things. And again, it's about the best aspirations of service in the profession, not about necessarily the guy in the suit getting it or the gal in the suit getting it. It's a tremendous honor to be able to get it. But I thank you. I've taken up way too much of your time and talked way longer than I should have. But if we could maybe meet to talk Bookfest at some point, I'd appreciate it. And we'll have more concrete area this year to work with if we use the parking lot. And I think the one change or two changes that we probably have to make would be to have another large tent and to bring the children's folks in, not to make them sit in the back where nobody can see them. Those are the two changes we have to make. very mild. And again, thank you for your time.